Welcome to this video. For some reason, the YouTube algorithm has decided that you are interested in agents, generative AI, and similar technologies. My name is Markus Beston. I'm the tech lead for generative AI in EMEA for Amazon Web Services. In this video, I'm going to show you how to build your first agent. The foundation of an agent is a large language model, and an agent usually on its own isn't very useful. It's usually in a combination of tools, knowledge bases, and various other constructs that a large language model is able to provide you with services that you otherwise wouldn't get. So this is the unique selling point of an agent. In this video, we are going to use Amazon Bedrock as the hosting platform for the large language model. And we are going to focus on the most simple form of an agent. That is basically an agent that has a set of instructions. In this case, it's supposed to make jokes. And once you give it an input, it will try to make a joke from this. If it cannot make a joke, then it will just let you know, hey, I can't make a joke, and that's it. If you want to follow the rest of the video, we are going to spend it using a Jupyter notebook, which is one of about 19 other notebooks that I've built for introducing or giving you certain introductions into the Strands framework and into building agents. The GitHub repository is here on this screen. You can also use the QR code. And without further ado, let's go and start building the first agent. Now, this is Visual Studio Code. You can use any other IDE that you want to use. I will just give you a brief rundown how you get to this page. And first of all, you need to download from the URL that I've just shown you the code that we will be using. And you need an AWS account to access Bedrock, because Bedrock is the model provider that we are going to use with the Strands framework in this case. Now, there are a bunch of other model providers that the Strands framework supports, but I've implemented it for Amazon Bedrock in this case. I will have a later video where I use, for example, Ollama to run your own model on your laptop. But for this session, we are going to focus on Bedrock. So you need an AWS account. Once you have an AWS account, you need to go to python.org and download Python, because the code that we are running is Python. Download the Python distribution for your platform. The next thing is that you need Visual Studio Code, which is the IDE that I've been using. That's downloaded from code.visualstudio.com. And then there's also the AWS CLI if you want to use a profile to authenticate to Bedrock. I will show you another option in this video, which is the recently released Bedrock keys. But if you want to use AWS profiles, then this is the way to go, and you can use the AWS CLI. Now, once you've installed Visual Studio Code, you will get this screen here. Or something similar. And when you download the repository to a folder and you point Visual Studio to that folder, it will look similar to this. So you have a bunch of notebooks here, and we are going to focus on the first one. To open this, you need, first of all, the Python extension in Visual Studio Code. And what you also need is the Jupyter Notebook extension that is also available for Visual Studio Code. So install both of these. And once you've done that, you should be able to run the notebook as I will do it in this video. Next point is here on the right, you see the execution environment for Python. If there's nothing here, then you just click on it and you select your Python distribution. I'm using a virtual environment here of Python, but that's not really a concern. Now, what you will do here in this first video, you are going to build your first agent that is just about interacting with the large language model and giving it certain flavors. We will also build the joke bot and various other agents that we can use. The first step towards this is that you create or download the Strands agents package. And this is done through this command here. It will automatically install it on your system. If you need to install it from scratch, it will usually take at most 30 to 60 seconds. Now, the next piece is we need to authenticate to Bedrock. So we need a way how we can talk to Bedrock and allow access to the Bedrock service. And there are different ways. There are AWS profiles and IAM policies and so on that you can use. I'm going to use the most simple one, which is the Amazon Bedrock keys. And I will show you how to make one of these keys in a few seconds. You go to your management console and you go to Bedrock. And there you find on the left side the menu point API keys. And if you click there, you can generate a long-term API key, and then you click a duration. I would recommend that you don't use something extensive. I would use 1 day so that you don't have long running credentials, and then you get a key like this. So you can copy it to your clipboard using this button here. And don't worry, I will delete this key once I'm done with this video. So it's of no use to record or try to type this into your browser or use it in any other way. Now, the next cell is that you use is this API key variable, and you just paste the string that you got from the page, and then you execute that cell. So once you've done that, you will get a confirmation that it's using the API key authentication. It's using US West, which is the region that we've been using, and then we're good to go. There are a couple of introductory things here. The most important point is to get your first agent, you need to import from the Strands library the agent class, and the agent class needs to be instantiated, and we do that, and that's it. So we have our first agent, and this agent is going to use Claude 3.7 Sonnet, as we can see here. Now let's do a first conversation and let's send a string there. So I'm learning about Strands agent. Can you introduce yourself? The answer that we get is, hello, I'm Claude, an AI assistant created by Anthropic, which is logical because we've not given the agent any kind of special instructions. It just introduces itself, and we are just talking to the large language model through this agentic interface. Now, there can be errors in this cell. The most common ones are that your API key is invalid or expired, or you might have model access disabled for Claude 3.7 Sonnet. I will also briefly show you how to fix that. So the API key you've just seen. The other one is the model access, and there's a menu on the left side here that is called model access. And you need to ensure that the model access here next to Claude 3.7 Sonnet in the region Oregon is basically has basically access granted. If that's not the case, you scroll to the top of the page and you modify model access, and then you go down and you do and enable this here through this tick mark. And at the bottom, you have a next button. And when you click a couple of times next, you will find that you have now access to this model. Now let's go back to the notebook. This should be basically cover all the reasons that could go wrong here. And now we're going to back to agent building. The first agent that we're going to build is the joke agent that we had on the slide. The second one is going to be a pirate agent, which basically makes more piratey things. And the third one is a tech agent. So we've created those three agents, and we are going to ask it the same question: what is Python programming? We will see that all of these different agents, based on the instructions that they got, will create different answers to this. Now I've copied this because I want to show you also that there is no real difference between an agent and a direct invoke of a large language model if you're just using a prompt or a text, if there are no tools involved or any other further instructions. So let's do this and get the question, what is Python programming, to the large language model. And it says Python programming is a high-level interpreted programming language known for its readability and simplicity. Okay, let's keep that in mind. And then let's go back to the responses from our agents. The first agent, as we expect, wants to make a joke. It makes like jokes about Python and bugs and so on. You can find those funny or not, but it's at least trying. The pirate agent does piratey things. So it gives us a pirate answer to the question about Python. And now let's go to the last one, which is the agent that was more techy. And when you do this, it will respond. Python is a high-level interpreted programming language designed with an emphasis on code readability and simplicity. Now, if you go back a couple of seconds, you will see that this is almost word by word the same answer that we got directly from the large language model. So the takeaway here is, if you have an agent that doesn't have any tools or any other additional instructions, then you are most likely going to get the same responses that you would get directly from the large language. An important feature, for example, to build a chatbot is that you can have multi-turn conversations with an agent. So if the agent has no tools and just a system prompt here that it is a helpful assistant, then you're going to be able to remember conversations. So in the first sentence that I'm passing here to the large language model, my string is basically, my name is Marcus and I'm teaching you about Strands agents. Now, if I do a follow-up question, then I can say, hey, what's my name? And it refers back to that first prompt. So the agent will remember that, and it will take this into account to answer and continue the conversation. And it will say, hey, your name is Marcus. You mentioned that when you introduced yourself at the beginning of the conversation. It remembers the conversation. And this is the way how you can build, for example, a chatbot. It basically takes all the text conversation that you previously had with the agent, and it will then remember those and take those into account to build the next response. And the same thing is like, what am I teaching? If I ask that, then it's also referring back to my first introduction. So this is an important feature that you need to keep in mind when you build agentic workloads, that you're able to take the context from previous interactions and use it to build the new response. Another feature that I want to highlight here for you and those that want to build their first agent and want to get their hands a bit dirty is the ability to debug and get information from different parts of the agent, but also the responses. So you can look at the raw JSON response that you get from the agent. You can also look at the different conversational messages that you have in the conversation stream. So if you go back to the previous chapter about the chat agent, then you will see that the first message was like me introducing myself. The second one is the response, and so on and so on. So here is the JSON of the response of the first prompt that I sent. And if you look closely here, it also gives you the model and so on. You can see the first response was basically this piece here from the agent. Now, this makes it quite simple to build agents and agentic workloads with Strands. And I would encourage you to go on from here and try to play around a little bit with the different agents, implement your own agent. There is kind of an assignment at the bottom of this notebook. So if you want to, you can do that. But most importantly, I would like to thank you for your attention. If you like this video, then subscribe to my channel. If you didn't like this video, leave a comment. I will try to get better. And thank you for your attention. And now go build.